Alright, this is video number 24 in the series, and in this video we're going to be concluding Danhauser's first book. I estimate that we've covered about 1/3 of the exercise in his first book, and that means that I'm leaving the remaining 2/3 up to you, and I hope you do them all before moving on to the next videos in the series, and that you feel comfortable with this first book. And that doesn't mean that you can read all of the exercises without making any mistakes. It means that you simply possess the tools necessary to confront any of the challenges that might arise. And that means being able to effectively use the stop and recovery methods, which we've talked about a lot, being able to effectively use grace notes to get the notes that you find more difficult from those that are easier. It means being able to identify modulations and being able to use warm-ups when you feel they might be necessary to orient yourself to a new key, etc. So those are the points that you should feel comfortable with before moving on to the next videos. But as usual, in this video, we're going to start with some syllable reading exercises. We'll look at some alto clef examples and one example switching between treble and bass. And then, as I mentioned in the last video, we'll get to some examples in G minor as well as B minor. And we'll conclude with an example in bass clef in the key of D major. But we'll go ahead and get to that first syllable reading example, switching between treble and bass clef to practice score reading. So let's take a look at it. Number 8 looks like this. We're going to take this relatively speedy, considering the difficulties inherent in the exercise. It's going to be about like this. 1, 2, 3. And I'll give you a count of 3 like that. Go ahead and group them in groups of 3 and put an accent on the first syllable. Let's go ahead and do it. Like I said, count of 3. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Fa, la, do, la, fa, mi, sol, do, sol, mi, re, fa, si, re, do, la, fa, do, mi, sol, mi, fa, la, do, re, fa, si, sol, mi, sol, mi, do, fa, do, la, sol, mi, do, sol, fa, re, si, sol, fa, mi, re, do, si, sol, la, fa, do, la, fa, si, fa, re, si, fa, mi, si, sol, do, fa, do, la, fa, do, si, fa, re, si, fa, do, mi, do, si, sol, mi, fa, la, do, fa. And we'll go ahead and move straight to alto clef. Number 15 looks like this. We got some serious upper ledger lines here, something a violist might see, for example, if they're not going to be in treble clef. Let's go ahead and take this at a tempo about like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll give you a count of 4 like that. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mi, do, sol, re, si, fa, do, sol, re, do, la, sol, mi, do, la, sol, fa, re, si, sol, do, fa, la, sol, do, mi, la, re, si, mi, do, sol, do, mi, si, fa, re, sol, re, fa, la, re, sol, si, do, mi, re, si, do. All right, let's take a look at our first alto clef example in 8th note notation. And we'll take this one a hair faster. I'll also give you a count of 4. It'll be about like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so group them how you see them. You can see a lot of runs of seconds, scalar passages. So we'll go ahead and group them as you see fit. Your groups might be a little bit different than mine, but as usual, read ahead, put an accent on the first syllable, and we'll go ahead and do this one. All right, here we go. Count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, re, mi, fa, la, sol, mi, re, do, si, do, re, sol, la, si, do, mi, fa, sol, la, do, si, re, do, la, sol, re, do, sol, fa, mi, re, si, do, mi, fa, sol, fa, la, si, re, do, sol, fa, do, re, do, la, sol, si, la, mi, re, la, si, la, sol, re, mi, sol, la, mi, re, si, do, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, re, mi, do. All right, before moving on to an exercise in the key of B minor, I thought we'd take a quick look at an exercise in its relative major, D major. It's going to be exercise number 133. It's in 2/4 at a tempo 100, which is about like this. 1, 2, 1, 2. So we'll be conducting a 2 pattern. Pay attention to those dynamics here. We got a couple articulations in here as well. And see if for a moment if you can identify any modulations that occur in the course of this piece. I'll give you a second to look. So you might have noticed that you have a couple G sharps, which would indicate a modulation into the key of A major, the dominant of D major. So we'll go ahead and put a stop sign in the second system there and go ahead and do an A major warm-up there. And in the third system, before we go back into D major, we'll go ahead and stop there as well and do a D major warm-up. And then I'll give you a ready and full measure, and then we come in at those points. All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick D major warm-up for this one. Re, fa, la, si, sol, mi, do, re. So the first note's la. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. Give you a full measure. Here we go. Ready, and la, si, la, re, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, mi. Stop. La, do, mi, fa, re, si, sol, la. Ready, and la, si, do, la, fa, si, la, sol, fa, mi, la, si, la, sol, la, si, do, la, si, sol, la. Stop. Re, fa, la, si, sol, mi, do, re. Ready, and la, si, la, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, fa. Re, fa, la, sol, fa, si, la, sol, fa, mi. Re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, mi. La, si, do, re, la, si, do, re. Si, la, sol, fa, mi, sol. Fa, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, la, mi, re. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that example in its relative minor, B minor. Number 135 looks like this. We are at the same tempo except we're in 4/4. Take a look at this one and see if you can identify any modulations. This one's a bit trickier. A little bit more complexity in this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put a stop sign in the first system where you see it there. And we'll go ahead and do a D major warm-up there. But you can also see in the second system we've got a B flat in there, which is pretty interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and use an A grace note just to get that B flat. And we're going to still be thinking in terms of the key of D major though. It's just that it's got a lowered 6th degree, as we sometimes see. And then in the third system, I'm going to go ahead and use a B grace note to get that A sharp to kind of reorient ourselves to a bit of B minor that comes in there, although we're still going to be kind of thinking in terms of D major. And the same thing in the fifth system, the first measure there. So let's go ahead and do a quick B minor warm-up for this one. Si, re, fa, sol, mi, do, la, si. So the first note's fa. All right, let's do it. Here we go. I'll give you a ready and. We come in on the fa. Ready and. Ba, si, re, do, si, la. Ba, do, mi, re, do, si. Stop. Re, fa, la, si, sol, mi, do, re. Ready and. La, mi, la, si, la, sol. La, mi, la, si, la, fa. Mi, sol, la, si, la, fa, re. La, mi, sol, fa, mi, re. Fa, la, si, la, sol, mi. Fa, re, do, si, la, sol, mi. Fa, sol, la, si, la, do, si, la, sol, fa, sol, mi. Fa, la, si, la, sol, mi. Fa, re, do, si, la, sol, mi. Mi, fa, sol, sol, la, si, la, do, si, mi, la, sol, do, re. Fa, si, re, do, si, la. Fa, do, mi, re, do, si. Fa, si, fa, la, sol, fa, mi, re, si, do, fa, si. All right, let's go ahead and look at an example in G minor that's a little bit simpler than that one. So number 144 looks like this. You can see we're at a slightly faster tempo. It's going to be about like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to pay attention to those dynamics and articulations. You can see we've got some chromaticism in the third system there. But let's go ahead and do this one. It's not all that complex. I don't see any modulations that really occur. So let's go ahead and do a warm-up for the key of G minor. And we're not going to take that repeat, by the way. So let's go ahead and do a warm-up for G minor. Sol, si, re, mi, do, la, fa, sol. So first note's sol. All right, let's go ahead and do this one. I'll give you a ready and we come in on sol. Here we go. Ready and sol, re, si, sol. Re, la, fa, re, mi, re. Sol, re, si, sol. Re, fa, do, si. La, sol, re, do, si. La, sol, re, do, si. Si, la, re. Si, la, re. Re, do, si. Si, la, re, fa, sol. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our last example for Danhauser's first book, which is number 169, and it's a bit more complex than any others we've seen, and it's in bass clef. It's in D major. Looks like this. We're at a tempo of 92 beats per minute, which is about like this. 1, 2, 3. So go ahead and take a good look at this one. This one's, like I said, a bit more complex. And see if you can identify any modulations or any touching on other keys. Give you a second. So you can see quite a few accidentals in the second system there. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the portion that seems to be kind of leaning towards A major in red, and then the touching on B minor in blue there. And then you can see after the double bar, we've also kind of got a larger section that's in the key of A major. But you can see more chromaticism in we see a B sharp, for example, there, and near the end as well. So this one's going to present some challenges. Go ahead and put in any grace notes that you feel necessary to aid you in the accuracy of getting those notes. But we're going to go ahead and take this one in the tempo indicated, and we're not going to stop anywhere in it, but we're going to be aware of touching on other keys. So let's go ahead and do a quick D major warm-up. Re, fa, la, si, sol, mi, do, re. All right, let's have fun with this one. Pay attention to those dynamics. Here we go. Give you a full measure. 1, 2, 3. Re, si, la, sol, fa, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, sol, mi, la, sol, fa, mi, sol, fa, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, si, sol, mi, la, fa, sol, mi, re, sol, fa, mi, re, do, si, do, re. La, mi, do, re, si, la, sol, la, re, fa, la, do, mi, re, do, si, mi, re, do, mi, la, si, sol, mi, re, do, si, do, mi, re, do, si, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. La, sol, fa, re, do, si, mi, re, do. La, sol, fa, re, do, si, mi, la, si, sol, la, sol, fa, sol, mi, re, si, la, sol, fa, mi, sol, fa, la, sol, fa, sol, mi, la, sol, fa, mi, re, fa, mi, sol, fa, mi, fa, re, mi, fa, sol, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, si, sol, mi, la, fa, sol, mi, re, sol, fa, mi, re, do, si, do, re. All right, that's going to do it for Danhauser's first book, and I hope you feel comfortable with these exercises and that you will go through or have gone through the remaining 2/3 of the exercises that were not covered in this series, and that you go through those with the same techniques that we've talked about in these videos, using grace notes to get those notes that you feel less comfortable with from those that you feel more comfortable with, effectively using the recovery method and the stop method, for example, when you want to do a warm-up or orient yourself, or even in the middle of a measure if you're having difficulties. Also that you're starting to internalize those scale degrees and hopefully not thinking too much in terms of intervals and thinking, like I said, more in terms of function within a key. So that's going to do it, and in the next videos we'll see some examples from the second book, and we'll get to some new keys eventually as well. We'll continue our work with different clefs. So until then, I wish you, as usual, happy sight singing.